Howard Hughes led a remarkably eventful life over his 70 years. Born into affluence due to his father's invention of a rotary bit for oil drilling, which brought substantial wealth to his family, Hughes inherited a significant fortune following the deaths of both parents during his adolescence. Describing Hughes as an ambitious eccentric would be an understatement. History has shown that wealth can often lead individuals to exhibit erratic behavior. For someone like Hughes, who already displayed signs of eccentricity, it did not require much to push him further into instability. Following his passing in 1976, an attorney for Hughes' estate initiated a psychological autopsy, revealing that many of the phobias and peculiarities he experienced throughout his life were linked to his upbringing. His mother had encouraged his isolation and imparted her own fears onto him. Despite his struggles, Hughes remains one of the most intriguing figures of his era. Had he been aware that his life story would later be portrayed by Leonardo DiCaprio in the 2004 film The Aviator, he might have embraced his eccentricities even more openly. Howard Hughes' father, Howard R. Hughes, Sr., is characterized by entrepreneur as an ex-outlaw oil wildcatter who amassed considerable wealth through the invention of a drill bit utilized in the oil sector, subsequently investing his profits into establishing his own enterprise, Hughes Tool Company. His mother, Aline Stone Gano, was described by BBC as a Dallas debutante and the aristocratic granddaughter of a Confederate general. At the age of 16, Hughes experienced the loss of his mother, whom Peter Harry Brown and Pat Brosk, authors of Howard Hughes, The Untold Story, depicted as very beautiful and very weird. Her death is most frequently attributed to complications arising from a minor surgical procedure. 2 years later, Hughes' father passed away from a severe heart attack, leaving Hughes an orphan, albeit a wealthy one. By the age of 18, he inherited an estate valued at nearly $1 million in 1924 dollars, as noted by Entrepreneur, although he would not gain full access to these funds until he reached 21. According to the biography Howard Hughes, the mysterious billionaire, following his father's death, Hughes dismissed all offers of assistance from relatives and sought legal recognition as an adult. Independent, determined, and ambitious, he offered substantial sums to relatives with interests in his father's business to secure primary control. This marked the beginning of numerous strategic maneuvers executed by Hughes. The name Howard Hughes is often associated with eccentricity, and much of his peculiar behavior and phobias can be linked to his mother. The biography Howard Hughes, The Untold Story suggests that Hughes had an emotionally incestuous relationship with her, which played a significant role in the development of his severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. A psychological autopsy conducted after his death revealed that Hughes' phobias were rooted in his mother's intense fears regarding germs and her obsessive concern for his health during his childhood. In Howard Hughes, His Life in Madness, it is noted that Hughes idolized his mother and did not spend a night apart from her until he was 10, when he attended a summer camp. His mother, anxious about his absence and fearful of potential germ exposure, became fixated on the possibility of him contracting polio at the camp, leading her to send numerous letters to the camp counselors voicing her worries. The book further claims that she examined him for illnesses daily and was meticulous about his diet. She reportedly monitored his feet, teeth, and bowel movements closely, taking him to the doctor at the slightest sign of concern. Howard Hughes' image as a recluse contrasts sharply with the extravagant lifestyle he led in his youth. Affluent young men like Hughes, who cruised in fast cars accompanied by attractive women and an abundance of alcohol, are often perceived in two ways, either as charming rogues or as spoiled and arrogant individuals, depending on one's viewpoint. However, the revelry can take a dark turn when tragedy strikes. On July 11, 1936, as detailed in Darwin Porter's Howard Hughes, Hell's Angel. Hughes was in Los Angeles with socialite Nancy Bell Bailey, celebrating her 21st birthday. During the evening's celebrations, Hughes suddenly encountered an oncoming vehicle. In his attempt to avoid a collision, he tragically struck a pedestrian, 59-year-old Gabe Meyer, who died instantly. Following the incident, Hughes faced charges of negligent homicide. He quickly ensured that Bailey was removed from the scene and had his attorney prepared to defend him. Attorney Neil McCarthy asserted to the media, as reported by the Salt Lake Tribune, that Hughes bore no responsibility for the accident. Although Hughes passed a sobriety test, McCarthy was present at the hospital during the test, while the admitting physician, who suspected Hughes was intoxicated, was not. Conflicting eyewitness accounts, including a notable retraction, obscured the truth. Additionally, allegations of bribes to the district attorney contributed to Hughes escaping legal consequences, much to the dismay of Meyer's family. In 1934, at the age of 28, Howard Hughes secured his inaugural racing trophy while piloting a custom-modified Boeing 100 biplane. This achievement marked the beginning of his journey to establish the Hughes Aircraft Company, which he initiated in a hangar leased from Lockheed, as noted by Spartan College of Aeronautics and Technology. By 1939, he had acquired a significant airline, TWA. With the onset of World War II, Hughes became fixated on developing military aircraft, concentrating on designs capable of transporting troops and supplies across the Atlantic. His efforts culminated in the creation of the largest wooden airplane ever built, the Hughes H-4 Hercules, commonly referred to as the Spruce Goose, a nickname that Hughes despised. Constructed from laminated birch due to wartime restrictions on metal usage, Hughes invested $18 million of his own funds into the project, while the U.S. government contributed an additional $22 million. However, by the time the aircraft was completed, the war had concluded, rendering it obsolete. The Spruce Goose undertook a single flight, piloted by Hughes himself, covering just 1 mile, and was never flown again. It is now preserved as a centerpiece at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum in Oregon. As recounted by the authors of Howard Hughes, The Untold Story, in his final moments, Hughes expressed to an aide, "I hope I'm remembered for my aviation achievements. I don't want the biographers digging up all the women." Howard Hughes was familiar with accidents, whether involving automobiles or aircraft, although he appeared to have avoided incidents with trains. Each time, he emerged unscathed. However, his fortune nearly diminished in July 1946 when he opted to test the XF-11 reconnaissance aircraft he had developed for the U.S. military. Disregarding government directives, he conducted the test flight over Los Angeles, as noted in Darwin Porter's Howard Hughes, Hell's Angel. The flight commenced ominously when the landing gear appeared to malfunction during retraction, yet Hughes reveled in the experience, fulfilling a long-held aspiration. On his return to the base, Hughes unexpectedly experienced a loss of control as the XF-11 veered sharply to the right. A report from the Oxnard Press-Courier detailed the aircraft's catastrophic crash landing, which resulted in damage to 2 residences and the complete destruction of a third. A passing Marine narrowly rescued Hughes, who suffered from burns, lacerations, a broken nose, a fractured collarbone, and a collapsed lung. Upon his extraction from the wreckage, Hughes appeared beyond recovery, and despite initially responding well to treatment, medical professionals assessed his chances of survival as only 50-50 at best. Hughes did survive, but the injuries he incurred in the crash likely had a lasting impact on him. In 2007, practical pain management suggested that he endured chronic pain for the remainder of his life. His subsequent dependence on painkillers was a means of coping with his condition. One of the most recognized aspects of Howard Hughes' life is his extreme, almost absurd aversion to germs. A psychological evaluation conducted posthumously revealed that he took numerous eccentric measures to prevent illness. It is reported that Hughes would don Kleenex boxes as footwear and would often remain unclothed in dark hotel rooms, believing this to be the most effective method to avoid exposure to contaminants. Furthermore, it is alleged that if he encountered anyone who was unwell, he would incinerate the clothing he had been wearing. Dr. Raymond D. Fowler, the CEO of the American Psychological Association, was tasked by Hughes' estate attorney to conduct the psychological evaluation. He meticulously examined Hughes' correspondence, reviewed various articles, and interviewed former employees to compile his findings. A picture gradually emerged of a young child who was largely isolated and lacked friendships, and a man who became increasingly preoccupied with his health, Fowler noted. During his discussions with Hughes' former staff, Fowler discovered that Hughes insisted they wash their hands multiple times and then cover them with paper towels when serving him food. Ironically, in the later years of his life, Hughes abandoned all personal hygiene practices, refusing to bathe or brush his teeth. He did not believe that germs could originate from him, only from external sources, Fowler clarified. He was convinced that contamination would come solely from the outside. The physician assigned to assess Howard Hughes' mental health after his passing, Dr. Raymond D. Fowler, compiled a distressing character study of a deeply troubled individual. Through discussions with employers and colleagues familiar with Hughes' daily idiosyncrasies, he discovered that Hughes' obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, manifested in particularly severe forms. In his report, Fowler noted that Hughes had created a detailed manual for his staff on the precise method for opening a can of peaches and serving them in a bowl. The instructions mandated that the can be opened, the label removed, the can scrubbed until the bare metal was visible, washed again, and then the peaches poured into a serving bowl, ensuring that the can did not touch the bowl at any point. A feature article by the BBC on Hughes further indicates that he was known to wash his hands excessively, to the point where they would begin to bleed. Additionally, he was notorious for fixating on minute details in his film and aviation endeavors, including the specific types of bras and underwear worn by his female stars. During the production of the Western film The Outlaw, it is reported that Hughes designed a special bra for Jane Russell, intended to accentuate her already prominent figure. However, Russell later recounted that she deceived him into believing she wore it during filming, aware that he would not have the audacity to verify it physically. Howard Hughes' relationships with women were marked by peculiarity, beginning with his unconventional bond with his mother. As detailed in the biography Howard Hughes, The Secret Life, his perspective on sex was devoid of romance, often perceived as a means of exerting control or seeking relief, akin to scratching an itch or sneezing. Despite being married twice and reportedly engaged in numerous affairs, even during his marriages, Hughes appeared indifferent to establishing genuine connections with his partners. Hughes' first marriage was to Ella Botts Rice, characterized by Karina Longworth in her book Seduction, Sex, Lies, and Stardom, and Howard Hughes' Hollywood as a Texan society belle. An article in the Washington Post regarding Longworth's work suggests that this union was not founded on love but rather served as a strategic move to enhance Hughes' business interests. Following his divorce from Rice, Hughes married actress Jean Peters, with whom he endured a tumultuous 14-year relationship, primarily focused on exerting control over her. A Telegraph article on the couple indicates that Hughes restricted Peters' spending and drinking habits, even employing a security team to monitor her activities throughout the day. At the height of his fame, Hughes was rumored to have courted nearly every prominent actress of the era, including Bette Davis, Katharine Hepburn, Ava Gardner, and Rita Hayworth. However, he consistently faced misfortune in matters of the heart. Howard Hughes had numerous connections with women throughout his life, some of whom he engaged with romantically. In Howard Hughes, The Secret Life, Biographer Charles Hyam controversially asserts that Hughes also had relationships with men, although these claims have been met with significant skepticism, as noted by the Los Angeles Times. Ultimately, none of Hughes' romantic entanglements resulted in a fulfilling and enduring partnership, and at least one relationship inflicted lasting physical damage on him. According to Darwin Porter's Howard Hughes, Hell's Angel, Hughes contracted syphilis from a sexual partner during the 1930s, which progressed to tertiary syphilis. The treatment options available at that time, prior to the advent of penicillin, included arsenic and mercury injections, which proved ineffective. By 1957, as reported in Peter H. Brown's Howard Hughes, medical professionals concluded that Hughes' syphilis had progressed to neurosyphilis, resulting in irreversible harm to his brain and nervous system. Consequently, they recommended his commitment to a mental institution, a prospect that instilled fear in Hughes and led him to marry actress Jean Peters that same year. Interestingly, although Hughes' syphilis was widely publicized following his death, his autopsy did not indicate any evidence of the disease, or at least none was reported. Practical pain management noted that both Hughes' brain and liver appeared normal. Over the years since his initial treatment, Hughes had undergone courses of penicillin, which the journal suggested would have effectively addressed his syphilis. There's a reason why Time named Howard Hughes one of the top 10 most reclusive celebrities. Towards the end of his life, Hughes' hearing problems, which he struggled with since childhood, and various mental issues caused him to isolate, hiding out for months on end in any one of the number of hotels he owned. In the book Howard Hughes, The Secret Life, the author, Charles Hyam, claimed that, while living at the Beverly Hills Hotel, he became obsessed with flies and would hire people to work 8-hour shifts just to attempt to keep the insects away from him. Hughes would sit in his room naked, sometimes wearing a Kleenex diaper, with Kleenex boxes on his feet, battling flies and fixating on germs. When not in a hotel, Hughes would shut himself away in his private movie studio and snack on chocolate bars and milk with his hands encased in Kleenex. If all that's not enough to raise an eyebrow, he's also said to have avoided doorknobs, choosing to instead open doors by kicking them, and he avoided the use of germy toilets by urinating on the floor or into buckets. Howard Hughes, the enigmatic American business magnate, investor, record-setting pilot, and film director, passed away on April 5, 1976. His death marked the end of a complex and often controversial life that had a profound impact on various industries, including aviation, film, and real estate. Born on December 24, 1905, in Houston, Texas, Hughes was the son of a successful inventor and entrepreneur. He inherited a fortune from his family's tool company, which allowed him to pursue his diverse interests. Hughes became a prominent figure in Hollywood during the 1920s and 1930s, producing and directing films such as Hell's Angels and Scarface. His innovative approach to filmmaking and his willingness to push boundaries made him a significant player in the industry. However, it was in aviation that Hughes truly made his mark. He set multiple world records, including the fastest flight around the world in 1938. His passion for aviation led him to establish Hughes Aircraft Company, which became a major defense contractor and contributed to advancements in aerospace technology. Despite his successes, Hughes's later years were marked by reclusiveness and eccentric behavior. Following a series of personal and business setbacks, including a plane crash in 1946 that left him severely injured, he withdrew from public life. His health deteriorated, and he became increasingly isolated, living in hotels and avoiding contact with the outside world. Hughes's death in 1976 was shrouded in mystery and controversy. He passed away on a private plane en route to a hospital in Houston, Texas. At the time of his death, he was a shadow of his former self, both physically and mentally. His passing sparked a media frenzy, and questions arose about the management of his vast fortune and the future of his business empire. In the aftermath of his death, Hughes's estate became the subject of legal battles, as various individuals and entities claimed rights to his wealth. The complexities of his life and the legacy he left behind continue to fascinate historians, filmmakers, and the public alike. Howard Hughes remains a symbol of the American dream, embodying both the heights of success and the depths of personal struggle. His life story serves as a reminder of the complexities of fame, fortune, and the human condition.